Well, welcome to the Unboxing the Office podcast. As promised, today we're going to bring some actual solutions. Corporate culture solutions. 12 episodes in, Bernie, and this is the first time you're actually bringing some solutions? Yes, I'm afraid to say it took some time, but we found an expert in the field. Yes. Today's guest, Dr. Nashay Lowe, a conflict transformation strategist, scholar, global practitioner who's worked in over 30 countries for organizations like the Peace Corps, who's a founder of Lowe Insights and the host of the Resolution Room podcast. You know how I like podcasts. Her podcast is where she distills big ideas about conflict into practical tools for growth. Her very unique Provention, we're going to be talking about that one, and Allyship Economic Model has helped leaders and organizations not just manage conflict, but transform it with clarity, alignment, and cultural strength. Emphasis on the cultural strength part. Dr. Lowe, welcome to the podcast.
That was quite an introduction.
You were a big get for us. I want to make sure to honor your presence.
You even looked up my dissertation, the Allyship Ecosystem.
Yeah, of course.
Wow, impressive.
Well, credit to ChatGPT for some of the research involved in creating this introduction.
Okay.
I'm not bashful.
Okay. I'm all for AI. I'm all for the GPT especially.
Right. I appreciate that. But first, a word from our sponsor. Speaking about conflict, how about the conflict you experience standing online for that microwave in the break room? HotLogic can bring an end to that, of course. Your coworkers, hot meals available at the ready. Allow them to enjoy the community of your shared space. HotLogic, faster than the microwave. Now back to the program. Dr. Lowe, I know. So I'm a little too much for most people.
This is hilarious.
Yes. But as my audience knows, I enjoy having a good time.
I see that. And you sound like a professional salesman.
I have a little bit of experience.
Do you?
Just a little bit.
I'm horrible at sales.
And contrary to popular opinion, I have never sold used cars. No disrespect. But
I can see you having your own commercial, come on down to the
yes,
Franklin.
I know. and the hat, of course, lends to that personality. I will own that. I'm not ashamed. I will own it. But which is why I'm so excited, and I'm nervous. You've probably picked up on that. I haven't had too many doctors on the podcast, but particularly those with a specialization in international conflict.
Yes.
So you started off your career in the Peace Corps, right? War-torn nations in many cases.
Yeah.
Before you got your PhD, right? And then this inspired you to delve into the world, into the melee, let me say, of trying to fix corporate culture.
Yeah.
How did this
related?
happen?
I know it doesn't seem too related, right? But
Talk to
yes,
me.
Peace Corps was a life-changing experience. Of course, it just broadens your perspective on a different part of the world and how people's realities differ and vary. And one thing that's really powerful is you learn so many different frameworks for addressing conflicts across cultural contexts.
Yes.
So from the Peace Corps, and then later on, doing my master's in IR, I got to travel to multiple countries.
International relations,
yes, sorry.
You doctoral type.
And so also doing that degree, I literally got to comparatively study conflict management and IR in Greece, Cuba, Switzerland, China, and Austria.
Wow.
Very different countries.
Yes.
And comparing that and adding that onto the layer of what I took away from the Peace Corps. And later on, working for the Korean National Commission to UNESCO, teaching English as a second language in South Korea. All these experiences oddly enough, helped me find the threads that just kind of pull us all together, as far as communication, relationships, social, professional,
Right.
all the above. It's easy to get clouded by the differences that we have, but there's so many commonalities and so much overlap around the world. And what I've been able to do is essentially take the global frameworks that I've learned and apply them at the local level. And the reason I got into institutions, and this includes nonprofits, academic institutions, and corporations, is, America, the United States, I'll say, because we have the Americas, right?
Yes.
The United
yes.
States is a very work-focused culture. One thing that really actually shocked me going around is a lot of people, when they talk about the nature of work, in the US, the first thing you ask is, what do you do? And people say, I am, and they say the occupation.
Yeah.
And a lot of other places, when you ask someone what they do, they say, oh, I work here, or I do this. There's almost an identity separation from what you do
Wow.
and who you are. And of course, this varies across different countries and different cultures, but I found that this is very prominent as an identity aspect in the United States. And so when I got back, after being abroad for a while, I just, myself, I went and got my PhD, like you said. And after that, I got into the job market. And so naturally, I thought I was sort of following the path of what I'm supposed to be doing. And just to find that it wasn't as good of a fit as I thought it was going to be. I learned a lot being in that environment. And one thing, since this is a very work-focused society, a lot of people are unhappy
Yes.
at work. I mean, that's not a mystery, right?
Here at the Unboxing the Office podcast, we've noticed.
Yeah. I mean, and so I started thinking about, what have I learned in my experiences so far that I can transform into helping people get through something that takes so much time out of their daily lives. You spend more time at work. Most people spend more time at work than anywhere else. And you shouldn't be completely unhappy while you're there. Like, there's so much toxicity in work cultures. We've been doing things a certain way for so long that I think that was what was once considered acceptable in a lot of cases just isn't anymore. And so what you find is a lot of corporations and institutions are checking boxes to keep up politically and socially with what's happening in society, but the culture itself is not actually changing.
Right.
And so that's where I kind of come in. I know what's possible when we take change and transformation seriously. And I'm here to hold people's hands as they go through it, because it's not a fun process.
No.
I think we're also a society that thrives on 7-day fixes and 30-day challenges. And I'm the person to tell you that transformation doesn't work that way, especially when it comes to a culture of any kind. And so I really try to be that long-term partner that helps you literally unlearn all of the unhealthy habits that's contributed to this toxic workplace and build healthier habits in its place.
How, if I might, okay, so even in the first few minutes here, we've identified a few of the problems. There are some challenges with corporate culture. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about solutions as promised. But how would you assess the current state of corporate culture here in the U.S.? You've hinted about it already, but since you're the doctor, right? I imagine you have a more complete diagnosis.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I will say this part has come more through the actual experiences than anything I learned in my program. But yeah, I think it's very obvious that the people within corporations are not thriving. The corporations might be thriving financially,
wow,
but a lot of people are struggling within.
That nailed it.
Yeah, I think it's not a mystery, again, that people are unhappy, and we got to figure out a way to fix that, because it just doesn't have to be that a miserable experience for everyone. If the corporations are succeeding and thriving in the financial part of the business, productivity, all these things, at the very least, the people contributing to that productivity to make the success happen should be properly accommodated.
How did we get here? I know.
I wish I knew.
We only got an hour, right? But we could summarize this in the beginning.
Gosh, I I think, again, just for a long time, there's just so many I'll start with just basic communication, because I think that's at the heart of so many issues that happen. And I think for a long time, from the beginning, really, we're not really taught healthy communication habits. I think that's something that should be taught in school. Like it's that's how fundamental it is to your life. You know what I mean? Like, you communicate for a living.
Yes.
Not just professionally, but personally, just socially, whatever it is. And so what happens is, people grow up, again, practicing just unhealthy communication habits. And then when you mix that with daily stress and just personality differences and communication styles and all of these things, and we're all just operating in our own little bubbles every day. And when you don't have the communication skills to know how to address something properly, or just more effectively in general, we end up in this vicious cycle of just having the same arguments and putting out the same fires every single day, versus just taking a step back. I'm really big on self-reflection, taking that time to take a step back and reflect on how we can do things just a little differently. Isn't insanity doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results? So when do we break the cycle? I try to be that cycle breaker.
So how much of the burden of the causes of these challenges do you place on leadership? It's a loaded question, I know, but I like to ask those kinds of questions.
Interesting. I mean, I think there is a misconception that a lot of people in management positions are leaders or have leadership qualities. And the reality is, a lot of people naturally start at one position, move up the ladder. It comes with just promotions over the years. It's just kind of a natural cycle that happens. But along the way, you don't always receive those skills that are needed at a high-end level, like a C-suite level. And so what happens is you get there and then you realize you don't know how to keep a team together. You don't know how to establish trust between people. You don't know how to communicate effectively or give feedback in a constructive way, or do all these types of I don't say basic because it's not basic to everyone, but do all these types of skills, again, communication skills that are essential for a leader. And so, you can't blame people for what they don't know sometimes, but I do think that more institutions need to invest in proper leadership skills and training, especially as you get promoted. That should be part of that promotion, is receiving that skills. And then also, while leadership obviously plays a huge role in the current state we're in, I think just the entire corporate culture as a whole is almost, again, when you think about a corporation or institution, it's almost like it's bigger than any one individual. It's like this thing that exists just in its own ethos, if you will. Yes. But what I try to do as well is come in and, I'm a big advocate for systems thinking. So I really try to come in and break things down back to that human level, one leader at a time, one manager at a time, one team at a time, and one individual of that team at a time, because they all play a part in this whole thing, And so really being able to break that down. So I wouldn't just put it all on leaders, because I think everyone does play a role in these things. But the key word there is leader. You have to model these things that we want from our employees. But going back to my first point, a lot of people don't get that skill up front to be able to even know they need to do that.
That's a very politically correct answer to a very challenging question. Bravo. You dodged that bullet like Neo. I've never seen anyone move that fast. Sorry, Matrix analogy there. I agree completely. That's a huge challenge, and we're moving at a tremendous pace, and so these things are unfolding faster than we realize it. And speaking of moving, so how large a blame would you lay on social media for fostering the challenges that we're currently experiencing in corporate culture?
Like communication barriers?
And the echo chamber and the algorithm. And it shows us what triggers us, not what inspires us, not typically.
Interesting. Now, I will say this. You're talking to the wrong person about being a social media expert, because I honestly hate the only reason I have one is just for my business purposes,
Of
if I'm
course.
being honest. But from what I've learned about social media, groupthink is dangerous. It's natural to want to navigate to others who think and agree with you. I think that's human nature. The challenge there is being willing to seek information that contradicts what you think and then making a decision based off of that. So one thing I have about the information sharing that happens on social media is what has become the quote of "I've done my research" has just turned into reading a TikTok headline or Twitter or X, whatever it is.
I've never done that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. And I'm not going to pretend like everyone at some point doesn't just do a quick little skim. That's perfect. That's fine. We're busy. But I think when you're going to make public claims out loud about especially a sensitive topic, it should be well informed, and just understanding that, as a social scientist myself, I question data. Like, it's not like I just read something and blatantly just say, oh, okay, this must be true. I want to know who the sources were, how did they collect the data, who did they talk to, when was this done? There's parts and context that should be added to those numbers.
Your PhD is showing.
I mean, I really do encourage that. And that's, for my work, whoever's work it is, like I have to even challenge myself. And I believe in reflexivity a lot especially in qualitative research, we practice giving you context of the author so that you understand my perspective and position and possible bias that could come here. And then what you can do is take what you know about me and what I've written and compare that to other people writing similar topics and see where that gap is and where it overlaps. And the truth is probably somewhere around that part. But we do our best what we can with information and science and data, but you still have to, I think there has to be some responsibility on be careful here. But, this is not going to be something people like to hear, but I think sometimes we have to be careful when consuming information blindly. And if we're, again, going to take a strong stance on something, really do the research.
Well, let us introduce a new segment for the Unboxing the Office podcast. I hereby declare the Unboxing the Office confessional is open. Dr. Lowe, I'm going to tell you, I have said some phenomenally stupid things on social media. I am guilty. I believe
it's becoming human nature to it's become the place you vent. Like, it's so funny how that's been normalized to publicly vent very personal things.
Yes.
And so and this is why I try to be a little more open-minded about it, because I think that especially this generation growing up with social media,
yes,
they sincerely just communicate a different way. And I think sometimes it's easy just to say oh, well, they shouldn't do this, or they shouldn't post everything. They shouldn't do this because that's not how we did it. But again, I kind of dance in that middle. I think being a millennial, I'm kind of I was just there in the beginning when the internet started. So I remember what it's like to not be stuck on it, to now where obviously I use it every day too, like everyone else. So it's an interesting space to navigate. So
now that we've disclosed that we've all done stupid things, I'm counting you. I'm going to throw you into that pile. So what we've seen most recently, and we haven't talked about this one yet, is that our employers and AI tools are beginning to influence this capability, are beginning to pay attention to our social media, not only in the hiring process, but years down the line. And when you say stupid stuff on your social media, there is an impact. Even if you're not a brand ambassador, you're held accountable.
Yeah.
How do you is this fair? Maybe, and even if it is fair, is it right?
I don't know how I feel about that, because again, I try to be conscientious of what I put online. But with that said, I still understand that I can analyze a post for hours thinking this is the perfect one. Who's going to misconstrue this one? Someone's always going to read something you said and take it a different way or a certain way.
And then come the haters.
And so that would really be unfortunate if you said something that you thought was well-intentioned and you didn't get a job because your employer doesn't believe or agree with this position. So something like that, I think, is not the direction we want to go. And I think it should be clearer then if social media is something that is more for personal use that should not be professionally considered, or is it just kind of up for grabs because it's just out there? I would be curious on more of the intent of what the employer is seeking when they look on your social media. If it's just for red flags, like, of course, we can't hire someone who just says horrible things,
Right.
you know? But you might, am I not allowed to post when I go to the beach and I'm in a swimsuit?
Right.
And am I not allowed to add a fun time at a concert? And maybe you don't like this kind of music? I don't know where the line is of when I'm allowed to be myself and express that freely versus, and I guess again, some people might just say, oh, well, you can make your page private or do whatever it is, but I mean, does that even do anything? I don't know what, I don't know.
There is no more privacy.
I don't know. Yeah. So,
and don't speak badly about my Detroit Lions. Otherwise I'll be upset.
I mean, so you're going to upset someone basically, but yeah, so I'd be interested on what exactly those lines are with what the employer is even seeking when they go to your social media. That would concern me.
And we talked a little bit earlier about how the world is moving a whole lot faster than it used to. And AI is going to continue to accelerate that trend. And I personally don't think humans were built for this speed, and it's having an impact on culture. Let's add that to the list of challenges that we face. My goodness, is there any hope? I learned in church yesterday that hope can be defined as confident expectation.
Confident expectation.
Is there any confident expectation that we can fix this? I know you're in the business, right? Right. That's a loaded question as well.
Yeah.
But can we fix this?
So maybe unpopular opinion. A lot of AI excites me. I think that when used responsibly, and ethically, it has amazing potential for human beings. But I also understand, like anything else, like any tool, if you use it wrong, it has bad consequences. If I use the hammer the wrong way or this drill bit, you know what I mean? Like if you use it for what it's meant for and responsibly, which also includes being properly educated on its purpose and how to do these things, where that comes from, I don't know if that's just going to start being in schools because obviously you can't escape it there either. So I don't know what that looks like, or being trained at work on how to use AI. And actually, that's actually come up a lot. I think more jobs are realizing that people are using them, whether it's for emails or whatever it is.
Yes.
You have to discuss the ethical ways to use it because not every, if it's an open source, it's just the privacy and things like that with the company uploading sensitive data or client information obviously could be a hazard. So more companies are creating their policies for their employees on how to navigate AI. And I think that's the way to go because I don't think it's going anywhere. The best we can do is try to arm yourself with knowledge, if you will, about how to use it correctly. To your other point about the pace of AI and social media more broadly.
The pace of everything.
Of everything. Yeah. I do agree that information is, we've never had so much just instant access to information, right? And to a certain extent, that's amazing. At any time, I even do this. Like there's times I'll be talking to someone and we're going back and forth and we don't know the answer. I'll just Google it. I'm like, why are we over here talking about it? Like, so like it can start to shift you even just having constructive dialogues about things and trying to actually work through it and talk through it where you can get an instant answer. So that may be a negative thing. But at the same time, it's also nice to actively fact check, especially when people are having conversations like this or whatever it is. You have the capacity to make not on purpose, but you can make an accurate statement. And it's nice to be corrected because when you have a following, people are going to listen to what you say and take it literally sometimes and not do the extra research. So if you have the capacity to check that, I think that is important. And so, but what's also important, I think, to understand is that I am not a biologist in any means. I am not a natural scientist, but I will say, I think from observation, I don't feel like human beings were mentally built to handle this load of information or stimuli, or just on social media altogether. Just like again, I think about being in high school, not having social media like this. Like, it's one thing to hear a girl call you ugly in the hallway and that hurts your feelings. It's another thing to have a girl comment on your page, call you ugly, and then like 10,000 people like it or share it or comment. Like, I don't think we're meant to handle that. That would destroy your psyche, you know, I mean, especially as a young person. So that's the part that really makes me a little nervous, is just that level of access for young people who are still very impressionable and trying to figure things out, and you're figuring it out in public.
Yes.
That used to be just a celebrity problem where it's like they're living in front of the cameras, but now it's almost an everyone problem.
Right. And we're not just talking about Coldplay. We're talking about just accidentally doing stupid things. And being magnified.
Yeah.
Because we're humans.
Exactly.
We are flawed by nature.
Exactly.
We do stupid things. And as my audience knows, when in doubt, I'm always making this up as I go along. So please fact check me. And
I am the PhD who is not afraid to say, my favorite phrase is, I don't know, or let me get back to you and figure it out. Like, I'm never going to just try to talk blindly for the sake of trying to answer a question. Like, I am not an expert. Like, I think people misunderstand too. PhD doesn't mean I know everything. It means I know some stuff about one specific topic. That's what that means. And you just realize in your PhD, I think that I always tell people this, like, the biggest thing that you take away from that experience, especially for me, was just that you don't know anything. There's so much information out there. And I think that's, in a weird way, kind of liberating, because you just find out how much you don't know.
I know nothing and less every day.
Exactly.
Mostly
but I admit that I don't know the answers all the time, and I'm just using my experiences and what I have learned in academic training to try to do a little better.
All right, enough qualifiers, right? We've set the stage. So you're an expert in the field, right?
Oh my God.
Let's talk. I promised my audience solutions.
Yeah.
If you were to pick the top 3 numbers, do you remember remember Family Feud?
Oh, yeah.
Top 3, and 100 people surveyed, top 3 answers on the board. And this is the PG rated version of the program. That program was a lot of fun back in the day. The 3 things that leadership, managers aspiring to be leaders, should keep in mind when dealing with conflict inside their organization.
I think effective communication is at the heart of a lot of conflict. I always go back to this because it's just the small misunderstandings that escalate into huge problems.
You mean people talking to people?
Basically.
I'm good at talking to people.
Right. And
Office space.
You know, everyone is going to think they are right about whatever they're talking about.
Yes.
And I mean, it's natural. So I think having the ability, or first off, having the approach to go into conversations by seeking understanding instead of trying to be right is how you start off a proactive conversation.
Communication, that's number 1.
It really is.
The basics.
It goes into every other part of resolving any type of conflict.
Why is communication, why is it not? Why is it, how do we get here? We've lost our ability to, I understand.
Have you ever had it?
I'm not taking the other side of the argument. I'm making the statement. Yeah. We've lost our ability to communicate. How'd that happen?
I don't know if we ever had it to lose it.
Okay, fair. Yes.
I think that people underestimate communication as a skill. Just because everyone communicates doesn't mean they're a good communicator.
Well, facts.
And myself included. You know, like there's times I have to take a step back and think about how I said something. And we have to remember that, again, dialogues are a two-way street. And I think that we show up with either the assumption that this person knows what I'm thinking or feeling, and you should just know that was wrong to do. Why would you do that? There's all these things we carry and come with that start the conversation off tense and put the person on the defensive.
Yes.
And then again, at the end of the day, you're trying to prove a point or be right instead of finding that common ground. Because I guarantee in 98%, if not all arguments, there is a common ground we can come to. It might not look the same in how we approach that, but it's there. It might just be like, hey, you want to get A done, I want to get B done. If we both do this, this is how it becomes C. That it's just creating that unique roadmap for yourself to get to the next productive step. So that's tough because, again, I think for a lot of people, when you step into a conversation, and it's not like intentional, but there's not always a consideration of what this person's going through. Like when they woke up this morning, for all you know, they got some bad news. Like there's just so many factors. And when it's happening to us, we expect everyone else to kind of be there for you and know. But when it's on the other foot, that consideration is not always there. And I think it's just, again, it's not like anyone's just trying to be a jerk. Again, I feel like there's also an assumption that people are just constantly trying to piss you off.
Well, that's are you telling me that's not correct?
No. I giving people the benefit of the doubt, I think that, again, we're operating on our own perspectives, opinions, cultural backgrounds, traditions, religions, ideologies. All of these things are shaping the way that we move throughout the world. And it's oddly enough hard to remember not everyone thinks about something the way you do. Like I think we just truly don't.
Come on. What?
And so, you enter a conversation, again, with some kind of assumption that this person's just going to get it or they know. And it's just often not the case. And then when they don't do it or they don't get it the way that you think they should, then you feel a little strange or off, or it's just kind of like, what? I couldn't be wrong. So I think when we, again, enter a conversation, just trying to understand where the other person's coming from instead of just going in. And let me add this part too, because this people, as far part of communication, a lot of people think they're better listeners than they are.
Yes.
When I say listen,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Right. I mean, most people, if you like look at someone while they're talking, they're just waiting for you to stop talking so they can interject.
I've got a list here.
I mean, so it's just, and again, I'm not saying these things like just saying people are trying to be rude or selfish or whatever it is, but it's just a part of how people naturally communicate. Sometimes you're excited, and like there's times I'm talking to a friend and she's like telling me something. I'm like, oh yeah, me too. Like, and I'm like, why am I making this about me? She's telling me her story. I have to remind myself sometimes, like, I don't need to jump in and interrupt her mid thought to say me too. Let her talk, and I can say that after, And even in meetings and stuff, I always have a notepad, and while someone's talking, I'm jotting down the points that I want to address later to make sure I don't forget them, because that is kind of hard to remember everything in your head. And when it's your turn to speak, you're like, wait a minute, what did I want to say? There's ways to address things that's not cutting the other person off and interjecting. You have to like truly listen to what's being told to you, and not just listen to the words themselves, but the meaning behind the words. Because a lot of times people aren't even really saying what they mean. They're just they're just talking. And again, I try to be gracious and understanding that we're not always going to say everything gracefully. And there's a time and place to just talk and vent and get things out, but there's also a time to just kind of think through what you're saying a little bit, or how you're saying it.
No, I'm self-conscious.
Yeah, you should be.
You
shouldn't say another word.
Did I conduct active listening? Oh my goodness.
But wait, I will say this, and not to cut you off.
Why are you cutting me off?
All this is not to say that I think when everyone hears this stuff, it does make them feel almost nervous of like, how do I move forward in a conversation naturally then and think about all this stuff? This is not something where you try all these things at once in your next conversation. It's just to be clear. These are just things to actively keep in the back of your mind. And just, so it's as simple as far as what I just said about listening, it's as simple as next time you're in a conversation, if you notice yourself getting ready to jump in there, just take a breath and let them finish their statement and then jump in.
That loud voice that you just heard was the sound of my wife saying, "Yeah, preach, tell them that's what." Anyway, my wife is very excited about all of this.
Oh, really?
That message most specifically,
Oh.
because I'm a man. I know who I am, and men have challenges with the. Not, hey, this is my tribe. I can call them out. The men have challenges in this regard, and women do
I'll
sometimes.
say everyone does.
Of course.
They look different, but everyone does.
But I shouldn't yell into the microphone. The boys are going to have to edit that one. But if I heard what you say,
Yeah.
If I heard what you said accurately, we're in trouble. We can't communicate. We can't listen. I had a manager one time tell me that sometimes it helps to leave your inner child in the car. Crack the window. Don't do it when it's hot out. But don't bring your inner child into a meeting.
Wow.
But at the same time, I think that's probably a crap recommendation. But at the same time, we were talking earlier about how leaders can sometimes treat their organizations like machines, which is counterfactual because it's an amalgam of humans. But what we're speaking to now really drives down to the subject of we have to stop treating people like machines. You're sitting across the table from someone, their father just died, right? Or they're dealing with some other struggle, right? That you have and you want to know why they haven't put the cover sheets on the TPS reports. And they're not even in the room mentally. And can you take a minute? And I'm not saying we're going to go full touchy-feely here,
Absolutely.
even though that's part of my brand. But can we take a minute, perhaps, to begin with understanding where that person is?
Absolutely.
Especially nowadays when, we all have tragedies we deal with in our own heads every day. I hadn't really given that a lot of thought. I thought the problem was at the corporate level, but no, each individual, people are human.
Absolutely.
Who knew? What? People are human? You're not just a machine that has dashboards and KPIs and numbers and numbers and numbers. No,
Yes.
you're a person.
Absolutely.
Is this what we're talking about?
Absolutely. And I do want to back up and just say I appreciate what you did starting off this part. And I think that's actually a really good communication skill is when in doubt, summarize or repeat back what the person said to you to make sure you understood what they were saying. A lot of times too. Yeah, you did. You said you started off and was like, if I heard you correctly, that's actually really important because not that you have to do it every single time, but especially for important talks. Again, what we hear and process and what's said to you, those are just two different, sometimes it can be different things. And depending on each person, they can just take it differently. So it's kind of nice to recap sometimes when you can. But to your point, yes, this is about human beings, right? And that's something I try to emphasize in my approach is it's not about necessarily just focusing on making sure that institutional leaders are top notch so they can meet their KPIs and raise profit and things like that. It's really about rebuilding, because I think it's they're there, but they just need to be rebuilt, or reconstructing the teams within these institutions that are building the product, making the KPIs for you, making that profit. They're literally the wheels of the machine making this happen. And when we take care of them, they take care of the machine.
Yes.
And I think it's just really easy. The machine in itself, honestly, just metaphorically becomes so big, almost bigger than any one person, that we forget about all of the people in it making it happen. And that's what I try to focus on, just bringing everything back to the human level. Because every institution and corporation, whether it's mission driven or whether it's just Coca-Cola, like a soda, you know what I mean? Like whatever that is, Nissan, whatever kind of industry or whatever that is, it's people at the heart of it making it happen.
Yes.
And it's very easy on the day-to-day to get caught up in all of the tasks and everything else you have to do than to make sure your team is taken care of. And one thing I can say from going from like a corporate background to more small business like I am now, I've seen it firsthand. When you take care of your employees, they'll go to heaven and earth for you.
Right.
They will. Yeah. Because in not even what seems like huge things, when you just make them feel seen, valued, and you just take care of them. They're just,
Yes.
of course, because it doesn't feel so much like a job anymore. It's like I'm part of something. I'm part of something. Everybody wants to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And I think when you can give that to someone, and it's just not like a community, but like this is their livelihood as well, I think that's where it starts.
Yes, I agree. And if I heard you correctly. So it's and leaders, of course, are going to be challenged in the coming years more so than ever before, because they have to get, here comes AI. They're going to have to get the AI part right, and they're going to have to get the human part right.
What exactly is the AI part that you think is destroying corporations? Just so I make sure I understand.
Well, I wouldn't say destroying.
Okay.
But as has been conveyed to me, here comes the age of AI. What we at this point hope, confident expectation, that's going to happen is, yes, creative destruction wrought at scale. It'll destroy industries. It'll give birth to new industries over time. This is going to be true, and it's already happening.
Yeah.
They call it creative and destruction because it's beautiful and horrible both at the same time. But drilling down to the very tactics, what has been perfectly obvious even at this early stage is AI is going to remove the mundane. If you have a task that you do every day that is very careful word choice, mundane, that task is going away. It's going to be automated AI, all that jazz. It's a good thing and a bad thing. One of the challenges for leadership is going to be working with the human component of their, I shouldn't call them humans, they're people. The people component of their business, to help them, and as you suggest, when you, or as we infer, when you help people to become their best selves, you help them to unleash the gifts. As a Christian, I believe in this principle, the gifts that they have been provided, you can unleash tremendous power within the organization. That's the human component. But the AI component is difficult because, as many people, stay tuned, we have episodes coming up, people talking more about this, but there's a lot of people who are treating AI like a copy paste, like an app that can be installed, like a widget that can be plugged in. And there's plenty of organizations that are going to learn that's not what AI is all about.
Exactly.
It is, it's rest assured, despite everything you see, I'm going to say it right now. Rest assured, despite everything you see online, it's not going to be fast, it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be cheap. And anyone who tells you, and you don't get to pick two, you don't get to pick one. It's none of those. It's not going to be fast, easy, or cheap. Get used to it. But it's necessary. And so go carefully.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to dive. AI is a passion of mine, so I went deep on that one.
But it's very interesting because I've heard extremes of both sides of this conversation. But one saying I've heard, I'm not going to say the person, obviously, but someone I talked to before about AI, and they're very knowledgeable in this. They engineered this kind of stuff and work in it. And, they told me and said that AI is not going to replace people, but people who know how to use AI effectively will replace other people. So so it's still a tool that's going to need human oversight. And for those who master AI and just technology in general, it is changing, like how you said, like, I think it is evolving the types of jobs that are going to be available in the next, 20 years or so. Doesn't mean there's going to be no room for humans. I don't think so, because I think there's always going to be oversight. But I think the types of jobs people are going to be doing changes, and the training needed for those types of jobs will be different, right? So it's just going to be more common for more people to be trained to be AI engineer or whatever that looks like in certain industries. My prediction.
Well, I believe I would agree. That is factually correct.
Yeah.
But this is my podcast, not yours. So don't you turn the tables on me. I asked you for three solutions. You give me one. Communication. What's number? I'm turning it around. What's number 2?
So two things that come up at pretty much every place I've been. Role clarity.
Sure.
And accountability.
Accountability? What are you talking about? Nobody does what they say they're going to do. And this is one of my rules. And nobody's held accountable for not doing what they say they're going to do. There is no accountability.
Yes, both ends of those.
This is madness.
It's a never-ending cycle, and it feeds directly into role clarity, because I think what happens is, and this is especially true, I think, for like nonprofits and education, the job you interview for that was on paper,
right?
Just your day-to-day doesn't look like that once you start the job.
No.
And so it just becomes a space where people don't know where they fit in on it. So you either overstep or understep, overmine or undermine. Like it's just, you have to wear so many hats in that space. And sometimes there's always the overachievers, the ones who are willing to just say, hey, I'll take this, I'll help out, I'll do this. And when you happen, your intentions might be good, but what happens is some people get comfortable with you doing that. And then they don't take accountability and responsibility for their role of doing certain things. Or it just becomes unclear of what they're supposed to be doing at this point. And so while I think it's always great to be a team player, we have to just kind of have clearer boundaries about what it looks like when you can, again, because in some industries, it's just honestly really hard to have just one hat you wear every day. I think in corporations, it might be a little different. But on the other side of that, there's an issue that happens where teams sort of perceive accountability to be punitive. Like, wow. You know, instead of, like, how dare you ask me to do my job? Right. Like we have to address both sides of this, you know? And I see that actually happen more in, I hate to say in nonprofits, just because, again, they're so mission driven, but what happens is they're mission driven and severely underpaid half the time. And so employers are afraid to hold people accountable because they don't have the resources or capacity to lose that person, if we're being honest.
Yes.
So it's really tricky trying to balance that. And so in order to build accountability, you have to have that role clarity. I think that's kind of where it starts, right? So when people are unsure what to do, I mean, that's when we start having the unproductive meetings. Like you're meeting for the sake of meeting.
Right.
And
let's have a meeting to talk about the meeting. Like after the meeting.
There's so many teachers, especially, who are burnt out with having back-to-back meetings where they talk about an issue and there's never a solution or next step afterward except to have another meeting about it.
Or time to affect the solution.
And then they don't have time for the meeting because they have a list of tasks to do that day that gets pushed to the next day because they had another meeting.
Right. So,
you know, one thing I really try to emphasize is almost just like communication triage. What can be summarized in an email? What can be a simple Slack message? What needs to be a face-to-face conversation? What needs to, you know, like just understanding. My sort of rule is the more sensitive the topic, the more personal the communication format should be. So understanding how to have those conversations is really important in making things more suitable so people can focus on their roles and tasks and duties, you know? So again, if a teacher has to get this list of 20 things done today, but I had to have 3 meetings that took 3 hours out of my day to get these tasks done, those roll over into the next day. Someone else steps in to try to help. At this point, you feel like you're doing your team's job, not even just yours. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing. And
along the way, you're supposed to be teaching kids.
And you're supposed to be connecting and teaching and not feeling or looking burnt out all day. Dealing with parent concerns. Like there's a lot you have to balance. And again, that's just like in the education sector. And again, it's trickier to kind of carve out.
But the same issues are occurring at the for-profit. Yeah, I imagine. Yeah, there is, especially across departments, depending on what you're doing. Like, I know that there's like, so for example, there's like
maybe a sales department, the marketing department, and like, I don't know, whatever kind of the people who deal with the customer afterwards. When they're out of sync, it's interesting. I think people forget, like, yes, the company has its own structures and policies. It's okay to communicate about, and a good leader does this. A good leader audits the current structures in place, and if something's inefficient or not working, that's when you step in and say, hey, I noticed we spent an extra 20 minutes using this system to mark this task as done, and it gets to this department or team. If there's a faster way to do that,
right,
figure it out.
Yes.
It's just there are ways, but I think people get either stuck in the current ways and feel like it's not their place to speak up or do that. Like, sometimes people don't know, or, depending on who the manager or the leader is, they don't feel like they can bring inefficient issues to their team member or team manager, because they know they won't be heard or taken seriously, or no one cares. I think what happens is there's a disconnect that happens at a certain level of leadership where you forget what that day-to-day actually looks like, and what you think is actually feasible for that person to do in a day actually takes way longer than you think, or it just doesn't work that way anymore. Or if you got hired directly as a senior level person and you never even had to do that job, you have no idea what that even looks like, and you're telling them to do it this way. So I think, again, as a leader, it's very valuable to listen to your team who is doing the task that you're asking them to do, and that's again, maybe this is social science in me, like that's data collection. That's data you should be using, that you have direct access to every single day to make the system and policy more efficient.
The thought occurs to me, now we're beating up on leaders, speak truth to power. They're wrestling with the same challenges. Leadership has back-to-back meetings, and they have their task list.
Absolutely.
And they have their numbers, and God bless them. They you lose the forest despite the trees.
Absolutely.
And their people are suffering as a result.
Absolutely.
This lends to another expression I've heard. Sometimes it's better to move slower so that you can do more.
I love that. I never heard that, actually, but I agree, and I love that. I think what you were speaking to earlier about how things are moving at a fast pace, just everything is, it's okay to slow down sometimes. Like, in our minds, everything is urgent. Everything deserves the same amount of attention. When in reality, you can triage these things. This actually can wait till tomorrow, or this can wait until this afternoon. And if I get to it today, that's great. But whatever it is. And you're absolutely right. So I do want to acknowledge that. So even in my work, what I try to do is, it's never about, because the leaders are people too. Like I said, it's a human-based thing. And sometimes they're trying their best, So what I try to do is shift the perspective from being about, like, all the things you're doing wrong, so to speak, but to acknowledge everything that they have to juggle as well. And just trying to find more proactive ways and strategies to manage everything and manage their teams in a way that not only makes the workplace more tolerable for everyone, but eases their workload as well. I think a really good leader knows how to let other people lead too. And it's a very delicate balance of, and actually I had to learn this myself. I was bad at delegating at first. I'm always afraid it's not going to be done the way I want, right? Like, that's my thing. It's like, there's a way to do it, and there's my way to do it. And sometimes my way,
I'm doing the same thing.
I mean, sometimes my way's fine, and maybe I should be open to another way sometimes. And so I think, learning how to truly lead means, when you give someone responsibility, that isn't. So, for example, if I say, Bernie, I want you to have this memo done by Friday, and it's Monday, I don't need you to email me or text me every day up until Monday. Until Friday.
Let's have a meeting on Wednesday about it.
Maybe check in with me the day before and just say, hey, I know it's due tomorrow. Just make sure you don't need anything from me. But trust me to come to you if I need help with something. Yes. And don't ask me about it every 10 minutes, especially if we set a deadline. And I think what's strategic is set the deadline at least 2 to 3 days before you actually need it. So in case you need to make changes, you still have that window and that cushion, and you don't feel so pressed to try to like now fix it in 24 hours. So it's stuff like that, like knowing how to truly trust your team to do their jobs that empowers people. And one thing that I've actually learned from watching my partner run his business, and I think there's more of a balance to this, but I admire this about him, is he truly lets them take ownership of their position. So it's never just, you're my assistant, so I need you to check my emails and do this and do that. He's like, if you notice things that I'm missing, if you see something that could be more effective and you know a way to do that I don't, either bring it to my attention or do it or try it. We'll figure it out.
Wow.
That's so powerful.
Yes.
And I admire it. See, for me, I need a little more structure. I'm like, tell me what you need. I'm like a soldier when it comes to like, now that I have my own business is different. But like before that, I feel like I was like the work soldier. I'm like, tell me exactly what you need, how you want it done. I got you. It's going to be flawless. But I never thought about what it would be like for someone to just say, here are the things I need done, and I want you to creatively figure out how to do that.
Right.
And that way, but when you do that, it makes the job too also just less dreadful, I think, because you're doing things in your own creative way. You don't feel restricted to feel like, oh, I have to get it done this way or that way. I think and I'm more task-based than time-based, meaning like I want a quality output of what I ask you to do. I don't care if it takes 2 hours or if it takes 10 hours. Well, actually, something shouldn't take 10 hours, but you know what I mean? Like I'm less concerned about that and more concerned about the quality of the output, you know? So that's one thing watching him and that's, again, to me, the difference between a manager and a leader. That's a very big leadership quality to give your employees, especially at a small company. So they really now feel like, I don't work here. I'm part of this company.
Right.
I help design the structures. I help design how these things flow and work. That's powerful.
So role clarity, but also having an understanding for the capabilities of your team. Absolutely. So that you do not make an assignment to someone who may or may not be best suited for that task, and pile on, giving them the freedom to go about accomplishing that task how they see fit, and trusting them. Let them, honestly,
wait, I will say this from my experience too. Let them mess up before you punish them for not messing up.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that drives me crazy. But one thing I want to add on to that too is about the role clarity is sometimes it can be, when we have especially a lot of like admin stuff to do that seem meaningless in the moment, it's also really important to realign how those tasks help the bigger picture and align with the whole mission of the company. Because I mean, a lot of people do join, especially nonprofits and stuff, for being mission-based. But again, when you're doing those things and you get bogged down on the day-to-day, you almost forget what that mission is. So getting back to the core of that shared value, that shared goal, I think helps people get through the mundane tasks that you were talking about, because now I understand why I have to sit here and organize this thing, because it impacts the way that this does this, and this impacts how we do this. And we can't serve our community if we don't do this. It's putting those pieces together for them, because I think it's just, again, it's very easy to forget why we're here.
We had talked before about this idea of shared mission, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone on the same page, getting on the same everyone page. On the bus, everyone in the right seat, but not only that, but everyone on the same page, singing from the same hymnal, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Which may be an even more challenging goal, right? Mm-hmm. But isn't that one of my so in my short time bouncing around the boardrooms, my favorite executives, and again, this is my podcast, not yours, but I'll tell this story. One of my favorite executive profiles are the CEO or the chairman that joins a meeting and sits quietly and lets his or her executives, leaders, all banter about problem solutions, and says nothing. And then after all of his or her lieutenants and leaders have said what they're going to say, everyone turns to the chairman/CEO, and he or she tells a story, sits back, having actively listened, sits back, and I've seen this happen a couple times, and let me tell you, it's magical. That chairman will sit back and tell a story of his or her grandchild and ice cream and through that story, I promise you, I've been in the room when this has happened. Through that story about their grandchild and ice cream, all of their leaders knew exactly what to do. Right? Being able to, Jesus in the parables, it's you can draw whatever analogies you like. Being able to lead, provide leadership through vision, and cultivating a team that is able to not only see but share that vision can take the place of 22 meetings, 500 emails, and 60,000 Slack messages.
Absolutely.
But that is a rare quality.
That is. Storytelling is an art.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I really love that, and I want to hear that story someday. But to build on what I was saying about the shared goals, then that's like you just mentioned. Also at the center of that is, again, the why are we here, right? That's the mission.
Why are we here?
I mean,
Jake, do you hear that one? Why are we here? This is for you.
I mean, really making that clear. And I think people also forget it's perfectly fine to redefine what that looks like as well, because things change over time. And I think even missions evolve and along with the times, and things happen, and it's okay to sit down and collectively define that mission together, because you get hired into a company, it pre-exists you, it predates you. But as we're working together, especially if you have the luxury of being in a small business, meaning you're more involved, like let's design that together. And the tricky thing I will say about this when it comes to maybe, not just corporations, I guess this can be anywhere. So I came across a group, and again, very mission driven, but at the same time, especially in nonprofits and certain organizations like that, there are people who are, I would say, seasonal employees, meaning like I'm in college, I have to get some credit for this, or I should be working in this to get the experience. So they don't care as much, frankly. And not even in a negative way, just meaning like that's not their priority in their life right now.
Yes.
They're trying to graduate college, or they need an assistantship, whatever this is. So how do you get them on board? Because I still need you to do your job while you're here.
Yes.
And so what I just encourage is that everybody does have their why of why they're there, even if it's not directly aligned with the full mission. If you can discover, and this just happens it's okay to have these conversations. Ask them, if it doesn't happen in the interview, have a check-in with them and ask them, hey, I know you're only here for this semester, but what are your plans after college? What are you trying to do right. after this? Align with what they're currently doing with the skills they need to have later on. Right. And that makes this feel more meaningful and connected to their long-term goals.
Yes.
That was something I had to learn for myself, even in my, when I was in college. I remember doing an internship that felt completely unrelated to what I wanted to do. When I tell you I use so many of those skills that I just didn't see it in the time now in my job, it's insane. Like, it's just funny how sometimes it's not clear in that moment. And so if you can just, again, realign, I think people forget you can have these conversations. Like every meeting you have doesn't have to just be this bullet point agenda. And now when you're having formal meetings, please have an agenda. That way you stay on track and we're just not talking about your weekend before.
That's never happened.
Right. But when it's stuff like this, it's perfectly fine to just have a check-in if you have the time, because again, we talk about the sensitivity of time. But when it comes to trying to get people realigned, redefining things, let's have this discussion about what this looks like for you, that you can get the most out of it while you're here. Because again, even if you have a good job, it's not a guarantee. I know there's people who work in, I want to say like financial consulting. It's almost like a plan to work one place 2 to 4 years and you just go to the next one.
Yes.
So I mean, and that's not a mystery, that's just how it works. And so if I know that you are temporary, or just understand that this is not your life goal to retire from this company, while you're here, if I want to get the most out of you, and not just like transactionally, like what can I get from you, but like this is a mutual exchange. I'm paying you for this job and I need this services from you. So to make this happen effectively, that conversation needs to happen, especially if there's ever a time when you're working in some months and you're noticing this person just doesn't show up to half the meetings. They don't do this, they don't do that. It's time for that realignment talk.
I'm reminded that it's a terrible cliche, but I use it all the time. But Steve Jobs didn't believe in weekly meetings. He preferred to just go for a walk.
I love that.
Well, I'm not going to sit down at a table. We're going to go on a walk through the park. We'll be gone for 3 hours. But that walk takes the place of those meetings and those emails and those Slack messages, and gives those individuals alignment, and allows that leader to be able to understand the why of that person. And for those who are profit-minded, he planted the seeds for the largest corporation ever to exist in the history of the world through this management methodology. So there is a track record of success there. Just saying. Okay. This has been awesome. And before we wrap, because I got 2 more questions that we have to cover. Okay. I just want to make sure we understand each other. All these things can happen in a 7-day workshop. Right? Easy, right? These things are fast. I remember fast and easy and cheap, right?
I wish. Again, this is actually one of the hardest parts about my job is really getting people to invest and understand that transformation does not just happen overnight. I don't want to so I don't want to discourage anyone from, I think it's great if you do this quarterly workshop for your team. I think that is still important. Don't stop doing that. But understand that if you want long-term sustainable changes in your company, it's an investment, and things have to happen consistently to build healthy habits. And so one thing I try to do is at minimum, my workshop engagements are 4 months.
Okay.
Yes, because and even that's a little short for me. I would actually prefer 6. But
4 months minimum.
Minimum, because but even with that, it's 1 key workshop a month on one of the 4 key topics that I think we need to take away from that. And they're broken down into 2 sessions per topic, right? And then you have 1 session that's kind of how we apply this all together. So it's a lot of the learning at first in the first 2. So 3 per month total. And what that does is, by me meeting with you for 3 weeks out of the month and giving you a little homework in between time so you think about things and apply things, it helps people not just sit there into a lecture, but you put it into practice. You're doing this for months at a time. This starts to become a little more second nature to you, and you start just practicing these things on the regular basis. My goal, oddly enough, is for you to not need me. I want to be there long enough to really instill the tools you need to be able to move forward proactively and productively, but you have what you need there. You know what to do at this point. It's just the consistency of it. So that's my recommendation, is a minimum of having 4-month engagements. There's some strategic planning engagements I do that take 1 year to 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, because I want to get in there. And that's a series of things. That's when I come in and do a full, cultural health check or audit, where I'm doing focus groups, surveys, interviews of every stakeholder involved in this organization, analyzing that data to come up with a clear strategic plan for the next 1 to 3 years, whatever we decide. And then I don't just give you the report and say, this is what you need to do. I then do that. We have the mediations that need to be had and the facilitated dialogues to put out the immediate fires. And then we start with some executive coaching for leaders to be able to move their team forward after those dialogues are had. We do the workshops, the 4-month things, 4 months at a time, but usually with those engagements, they're longer. All of these things working together to make sure that we are tapping this in different ways. There's a lot of interactive workshops and dialogues and trainings that happen during this time. So it's different, but the level of commitment that takes, but I also try to I have to be cognizant again of people's time. So we do plan this out in a way that it doesn't just, add that extra meeting to your agenda for no reason.
One more meeting.
Exactly. One more meeting, but one more meaningful meeting.
Right.
This meeting should actually cut 5 of your other meetings.
Well, yeah. And this is true. I've seen that.
Yeah.
Last question.
Yeah.
And to confirm, because we mentioned this topic earlier, as AI comes bearing down upon us, particularly large organizations.
Yeah.
Do you believe that culture, communication shared vision. Are all these things going to become more important for the success of an organization or less important?
I don't think AI has to change the importance of that mission. I think that's a constant. That should be existing no matter what.
One would think.
I would hope so. However, there may have to be more effort on, again, that realignment of the mission as we introduce more technology into everything, because that just may impact the level of interaction people even have with each other. It might be a lot less of that. We already, work remotely and see each other only on screens a lot of times.
Yes.
Which again has become a great convenience to some, but it can be isolating for others. So it's just kind of how you balance it. But I think no matter what, at the core of all this, human beings should be at the center of all this. At the end of the day, all of this stuff is great, AI, technology, the businesses that we're running, but none of it precedes the human connections that we make while we're here on this earth. And, at the end of the day, people aren't going to say, Bernie was just the best corporate leader and all. I mean, they might say it.
Factually correct.
But but even if they mention that about you, it's going to be like, because he made me feel like I can do this job better than it. He made me feel like this as a leader, not just, he had the best KPIs. He had this. Like, yeah, you might have some stats when it comes to stuff like that, and that's great. But the part that's lasting, the legacy part, is all the other stuff. And that's, again, what we try to bring back to the center of all this in the trainings and work that I do now.
People will remember how you made them feel
Absolutely.
long after they've forgotten everything you said.
Absolutely.
Or something like that.
Yeah. I think that's the saying or something like that. But yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, I lied. Okay, one more. I got to slide one more in. Just to confirm, because we began the conversation with the idea that corporate culture is challenged, to say the very least, right? Can we have confident expectation that we can right this ship, that we can bring culture back into alignment, that even with the challenges of AI, we can win this war? I shouldn't use that analogy, but I just did. Right? Can we win this?
I believe so. That's why I do this work. I feel I've seen what's possible when you see a team transform, and it is an amazing feeling when you see what was once tension between this group. They're now collaborating, and it's not like they're just not kumbaya best friends, but there's such a shift in understanding that happened there that you can just tell the way they relate to each other is completely different. And when you know that's possible, when you know what it takes to get there, and you just have to be willing to invest in doing that work that it takes to get there, that's the hardest part. I mean, you think about like just people in general, personal development, I think I mentioned to you, is just very important to me. But I understand that for most people, you don't want to sit there and just reflect and think about maybe areas of improvement and to do the work. Nobody, it's hard to do it's hard work.
Yes.
And I can't stress that enough. So I don't sugarcoat that at all. Like,
yes.
I think one big I think one big misconception when people start this kind of work is they think that they hire me or someone like me to come in and just fix it.
Right.
I don't fix it. It's impossible. Majority of the work, it comes from you, because it's going to keep going once I leave.
Right. Yes.
The daily, it's an emotional labor thing. It's a lot to consider, especially up front when a lot of these maybe approaches feel new or foreign to you, and it could be uncomfortable. It could be annoying. It could be like,
yes,
it's a lot to consider. So I think really just understanding and investing in your personal and professional development is the hardest thing. But if you do it and you just get out on the other side, it just makes all the difference. And why not have an institution or a corporation that not only thrives financially, but internally as well?
Yes. I can't think of a better message to end on. If folks want to learn more about the work you do, The where do they go?
Yeah, you can go to loweinsights.com. That's LOWEINSIGHTS.com. And
Great.
from there, you can find my podcast, you can find my services, my social media, all that's there.
Right. Oh, you do have social media.
I do.
Yes.
I do. I have to.
We'll put all those links in the caption.
Yes.
Please comment. If you'd like to fact check this conversation,
Oh my God.
don't hesitate to comment below. On behalf of the Unboxing the Office podcast, Dr. Lowe, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I can't wait to have part 2 of this conversation when you come on my podcast next month.
Oh, I will accept that challenge. You know, I'm here for it, and I got things to say.
Oh boy.
But this was great to deliver value for our audience, actual practical insights to how to fix your stuff, right? To forgive my French, because the stuff is broken. I'm in the presence of a lady. I don't want to use bad language. We're going to edit that part out. On behalf of our sponsor, Hot Logic, thank you. I am looking forward to rewatching this episode because I got to take some notes on everything we covered.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to watch it back and be like, what am I talking about?
Right? Transformative. And you delivered.
Thank you.
Dr. Lowe, you're amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's the podcast. Peace.